Hey everybody, Jenny Lee Hodgins here. I hope I'm live. Let me know if you're with me with a hashtag live. And if you're catching me on the replay, give me a hashtag replay. Excuse me. I wanted to come in live today inside the new and returning piano learners Facebook group. First of all, to welcome anybody that's new in the group. Nice to have you here. Feel free to introduce yourself in the comments. Excuse my allergy itch. Let us know, if you're new or returning to the piano in the comments, or you can also go to the featured post at the top of the group and there's an introduce yourself post and let us know who you are, what brought you to the group, what your goals or struggles are, and let's get to know you a little bit. And for those who are already in the group, my wonderful group members, thank you for being here. I'm going to be sharing a little bit from some of the group members in today's presentation. I'm going to try to make the presentation shorter and to the point because I'm really focused on giving you good value. And so today, for today's Tuesday Piano Tips Live, I'm going to share ideas on how to safely handle injury or pain while continuing to make piano progress no matter what. And I know this issue is really relevant for many of us. It impacts our mental well-being as well. When you can't be at the piano, it's frustrating. And I kind of got this idea from watching the conversations in the group. I saw new and returning piano learners Facebook group members Tina Crescent and Alex Dalton. They recently had a really honest dialogue in the group about their struggles with hand pain. And so whether you have a temporary injury or chronic pain, you can continue deepening your musical skills. And I wanted to give you some ideas on that. I'm well aware of this struggle as I've dealt with periodic bouts of chronic tendonitis myself. My issues with tendonitis stemmed from my overachieving personality, not knowing when to quit. And I have a lifelong lesson really to learn about balance and self-care. And, so that's my thing. And I think I'm getting there with that, and not being able to play the piano through those bouts of tendonitis has taught me really valuable solutions and ways to avoid that pain if possible. So first I want to just jump in and say, let me know that you're here again with a hashtag live or a hashtag replay. Let me know with a broken heart emoji or a hand emoji if this issue of how to deal with pain at the piano and keep going with momentum is important to you or resonates with you. Just drop that. Let me know in the comments if this is something important to you. And first, I just want to say you can prevent, try first and foremost to prevent physical pain. And some things you can't prevent, but you can go a long way with making sure that you're sitting at the proper height when you're at the keyboard. So in general, that means your forearms are parallel to the floor. So they shouldn't be angled up or down, but rather parallel to the floor. And generally speaking, if you're sitting with your forearms parallel to the floor, you're going to avoid a lot of tension just by where you're sitting. So check where your keyboard is, if it's electronic or digital. And even pianos, some pianos, the benches don't suit the piano, or there's older antique pianos that are at different heights. So make sure that whatever seating you've got is adjustable if possible, and make sure you can alleviate any angles, from your hand. Make sure it's forearms parallel to the floor. That'll go a long way to preventing, pain in your hands just by sitting properly with correct posture. Secondly, these are the things that I use and the things that really work for me to avoid pain at the piano. I'm using, as a returning piano learner, I'm using mindfulness when I can practice. So now I can practice because I don't have any, tendonitis going on. But if you're dealing with an injury or pain, first of all, well, again, this is preventative as well as a continued practice that I use, but mindfulness really requires attentive awareness of what you are doing at the keyboard. So not just the musical elements or the analysis that you're thinking about at the piano, but mindful piano practice also includes paying attention to what you're doing physically. So by that, what I mean is mindful practice for me is paying attention to your breathing, sensing any tension or unnecessary stretching in your hands or your arms or your body, and be aware of your posture. Just that mindfulness can go a long way to relaxing and getting rid of tension or pain and preventing it. And if you are having physical tension, this kind of mindful practice will attune you to that, which is really the first step of finding the solution. If you're not even aware that you're tense or that you're having pain until it's too far into the practice session, you need to really be more attuned to yourself. So this mindful practice is really helpful to that. Tension and stretching is not part of the successful piano player's habits. Learning to be mindfully aware of yourself physically at the keyboard goes a long way toward resolving any tension. So mindfulness, I did several live presentations on mindful practice, and you can find a lot of that in the guides section, and I'll be organizing more of that in the future. But definitely just start practicing mindfully when you're at the keyboard. So the third thing I wanted to mention is, and especially for those who are experiencing pain, piano progress does not just happen at the piano. It is not just a physical activity. So some of you know that I have a mantra for piano practice. My mantra I learned from one of my favorite piano teachers, Dr. Charles Turan. The mantra is, mind spent is better than time spent. But this does not mean that all the learning happens at the piano. And I just want to say a quick note about rests, and pardon the double musical pun there, my note about rest. Two of our wonderful group members and peer piano players stressed the importance of taking a break from playing the piano when you have pain or injury. So I totally agree with Natalie Pett and Alex Dalton. They both regarding the importance of rest periods. I fully agree with that. The most important thing is our health and wellness. So if you have pain, you need to rest. And I think it was Tina Crescent that was struggling with pain. So Tina, if you're listening, I really hope that you're taking a break from the piano, because your wellness is most important, and you don't want to push yourself. I'm speaking from experience. You don't want to push yourself at the piano until that pain is gone. Otherwise, you're going to risk further damage. And while you're taking a break, by the way, just a side note, also, another pun. I have for chronic tendonitis, and I think it also helps with arthritis, because I gave some to my mother who has some problems in her thumbs with arthritis. We have bought these compression sleeves, and they really do a lot to alleviate some of that pain. And also for me, when I wear the compression sleeves, when I've had bouts of chronic pain, it reminds me, don't use your hands, Jenny. It's just a visible reminder, physical reminder to back off. So that's something too, that if you haven't experienced getting compression sleeves, those are really helpful. And you can sleep in them overnight, which gives them a break for you as well. So while you're taking a break from the piano, if you've got pain, you can still keep your momentum going at the piano by using listening, reading, and thinking activities. And I've done some tips on those in my most recent Tuesday Piano Tips Live, which is now a replay from the May 5th, and it's in the featured section. I gave some tips on some of those specific ideas that you can do. And if you look in the guides section, I did a replay with detailed ideas for practicing away from the piano keyboard. I've also got a blog up on my website. I'll try to plop that in the link in the comments too, where I interviewed another piano teacher, and she gave some really great insight as well on things you can do away from the keyboard when you have an injury. So, I've talked to if you're new to the group, just so you know, my thing is, or my attitude about piano learning is, you really need to adopt creating it as a daily habit. So I use a piano practice challenge every week in this group to motivate myself and the members in this group to keep challenging ourselves every single day to get at the piano. And the reason I do that is, well, there are many reasons, but one of the biggest ones is that we know that repetition forms neurological pathways in our brains that help us learn and memorize music. So when we have time gaps in between our piano sessions, like days that we skip in between practicing piano, then when we come back to the piano, remembering the music or even the physicality of playing the music is much more challenging when we have those gaps. We know research proves that consistent, regular piano practice accumulates. And we know that the combination of our physical, cognitive, and oral memory skills creates a really strong foundation for piano playing. But I don't want you to be afraid of losing momentum at the piano or in your piano advancement when you cannot physically play the instrument because of an injury or pain. If you have pain, you absolutely should not play the keyboard. But this does not mean you have to lose your progress in your musical learning. So, that's where I want to encourage you, because I know when you can't play, you can get very discouraged that you can't do it. But actually, it's a wonderful opportunity to keep that momentum going with these listening, reading, and thinking activities away from the keyboard. It keeps your musical soul nurtured. It encourages your mental health. And you will also eliminate the loss of your musical gains by staying engaged with your music in new ways. So your brain, as I mentioned, your ears, your brain, and even your physical memory, they're going to keep your musical memory engaged even if you're not at the piano, as long as you're doing these, listening, thinking, and reading activities. So all three of these types of memory, the cognitive, oral, and physical memory, muscle memory, these can strengthen your musical skills even if you're not at the keyboard. Because honestly, your brain does not know the difference between envisioning an activity and actually doing the activity. So, and there's research all about this, that there's lots of research has been done with athletes and musical performers on the impact of how they used imagery to learn their music and practice performing to reach their goal or to do a really strong performance. Excuse me. So, being away from the piano, it doesn't matter. You can still progress because your brain doesn't know the difference whether you're at the keyboard or you're just thinking about it. So use that as an advantage. If you have to stay away from the piano for an injury or pain issues, then listening to music, reading your music, and thinking about your music in different ways will increase your musical skills. And as I mentioned, last week's replay in the featured section, and there's more detail in the guide section where I go into a lot more detail about specific activities that you can do. And as I mentioned, I'll drop that blog too that has a little more. Let me know if this is helpful to you. In the comments below, give me a heart or give me a piano or a music emoji if this is helpful to you in terms of a tip for dealing with pain. So I just want you to think about that. When you cannot physically play the piano, you also have the perfect chance to practice envisioning your performance, confidence, and success. And this is something that people who have stage fright or hesitancy to play in front of others, a big part of that comes from not preparing yourself by practicing performance itself. So even if you're nervous about doing it, doing a performance for any reason, whether it's dropping a video in the group here to show us your progress or to ask a question, or if it's attending a recital and actually performing for your peers, or if you want to hit a record button and show us what you're doing, or if you're sharing your music with your family, even if you're not doing those things, you can certainly envision your performance success and confidence, especially when you're unable to play the keyboard. You can use this as an opportunity to strengthen your imagination skills with imagining your completely successful piano performance. I've done this so many times, and it has really prepared me for all the performances I've done in my life. When I have practiced performing, just literally by envisioning it in my mind, it has really helped my performance. It's taken my performances up notches just by doing that. So when you return to the piano again, after you do these kinds of activities with listening, reading, my brain is dead. Listening, reading, and thinking about your activities. And of course, envisioning is part of that thinking process. When you do those kinds of activities and you go back to the piano, you will have built a really solid foundation for continued success at your piano playing, and it won't be like you lost any momentum at all. Does that help? Do you have any questions on that? I just wanted to pop in and give you some tips on playing away or when you can't play the piano, if you've got an injury or pain, and what you can do away from the keyboard. Even without these tips work amazingly. So let me know if this is helpful by dropping a heart or a music emoji in the comments. And I'm going to go back and check the comments in just a second. And if you just caught me, give me that hashtag live. And if you're on the replay, give me a hashtag replay so I know you're with me. I also wanted to give you a heads up that I am writing my second draft of my book called Start Piano, What You Need for Successful Learning. And for accountability, I announced it last week when I was out of town at a work conference with my sister in Louisville. And I want to report to you that I am writing every single day, 90 minutes in the morning on my book rewrite, and I'm practicing piano for about the same amount of time. Sometimes I split that up. And this week I've been writing the introduction to the book to let you know my personal backstory and why you can trust me to lead you the right way when it comes to starting or returning to piano learning. And I'm going to pop in later this week, I think, to read just an excerpt from the intro I've been working on to let you know a little bit of my personal piano learning journey. Let me know if that interests you by dropping a book emoji in the comments. And also, in the comments, let me know what questions you have about how to start piano or how to return to the piano. What questions do you have about maybe a supportive piano practice routine, or how to set up a piano practice area for best results, or tips for learning the music or memorizing your music or performing the music, overcoming stage fright? These are questions that I get asked quite often by many different people. And it's actually what prompted me to write the book. But I would love to hear from you about this. Like, what kind of questions do you have about, returning to the piano, keeping your momentum, your progress, your advancement moving forward, or how to just get started? What questions do you have? I'd really love to hear from you about it, because if I've left anything out that's important to you, your input can be really helpful as I'm continuing to rewrite the book. And also, I wanted to ask a favor to please help me invite others to the New and Returning Piano Learners Facebook group. I really want to grow this group to reach 200 members by the end of May. And so you can really help me do that by sharing this group with others that might be interested in learning or improving at the piano. And that's it. I just wanted to come in and give you some tips. I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep myself accountable as I'm writing the book each week. And also, let me know in the comments if there's another time or day that might be easier for you to join me live. I'd love to have, I know sometimes people make it live and sometimes people just can't get here until the replay, but drop in the comments and let me know what time or day, ballpark figures would be better for you. Weekend, or earlier in the week, or later in the week, or earlier in the day or later in the day. Let me know that in the comments too. And thank you so much. And I will see you next Tuesday, 1 p.m. ET, with more piano tips for you. I'm going to pop in later this week and give you a little excerpt reading from my introduction so that you know a little bit more about why I'm writing this book, why I think it's so important for you, and why I'm the person that you can trust with the information I'm sharing with you that you really need to start piano successfully and keep that momentum going. And now I'm going to go practice my own piano again, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Take care.